Hello and welcome to the podcast from the Huffines Institute for Sports Medicine and Human Performance here at Texas A&M University. I'm your host, Tim Lightfoot, and I am so glad that you took the time to watch or you downloaded us and you've listened. Every week we strive to bring you another interesting person from the world of sports medicine and human performance, and today is no exception. Today is actually a really big treat for us. We're really excited to have with us Mr. Monty Gibson with us. Welcome to the podcast, Monty.
Appreciate it, Doc. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and it's we've been trying to get this arranged for like 7 years or something like this.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for years, so we finally made it happen.
You actually had to move away before we made this happen.
I did. I had to move off so I could come back and do this podcast.
That's right. So awesome. I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about you.
Absolutely.
And why we're so excited to have you here, and then we'll just go from there. Monty is currently the assistant strength and conditioning coach with the Cleveland Browns. Yes, that's the NFL Cleveland Browns. Go Browns, right?
Go Browns, that's
Go Browns. Right. He's got a couple degrees, one from Angelo State University and one from here at Texas A&M. He's had as most folks in athletics do, he's had a large number of positions. I'm going to give him a couple of your most recent ones. From 2003 to 2018, he was here at Texas A&M. He was a sports performance coach with the following sports: with men's tennis, equestrian, men's and women's track and field, diving, cross country, women's basketball, and where I got to know you was when you worked extensively with football for several years. And so currently, as I said, he's with Cleveland Browns. He's assistant strength and conditioning assistant. Monty is certified by several different organizations. In 2016, he actually earned the title of Master Strength and Conditioning Coach with the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. And so we're really pleased to have you on today.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Like I said, it took us a while, but we got you here,
did.
Right?
We're here. We made it happen.
And so we had to go like thousands of miles just to go across the street.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So first of all, let's start talking, because you've been with the Browns for a year and a half.
Year and a half, just over a year now.
Yeah. What's been the difference in the what's been the transition between working with a collegiate athlete and working with a pro athlete?
Yeah, I've got that question a bunch over this past year. I could answer it a lot of ways, but the easy answer is the colors on the walls are different.
Okay.
Is really it. We traded in our maroon from so many years here at A&M to the brown and orange up there in Cleveland.
Right.
Because really going every day and going to work in the weight room and training your athletes, it feels the same. That absolutely feels the same. The job of sports performance is to help help your athletes get better. Whatever it is they're doing. We just happen to be working with our NFL athletes, but you just want to see them get better. So that job remains the same. And they're an excited bunch, and they want to work hard just like our athletes here at Texas A&M. And so that part feels the same. You're excited to go to work. You kind of plan out and program what you think that they might need, and you collaborate with them, and you jump in and you get it done. And so that's been the biggest part of the transition, is just it's a different spot. It's new at this point.
I think probably one of the impressions that the public has in general, that once they become a pro athlete, that they, I don't want to say get cynical, but they're used to everything, and it's kind of a laissez-faire attitude. And when you come in and you talk about how they're enthusiastic to be at work and to do their thing, the athletes
Absolutely.
At the pro level, that's a little bit different than what I think the public perception is.
Right. Yeah. And they are pro athletes, and obviously they get paid to perform, and that's their passion, and that's what got them there. And I think a way to kind of think about that, here at Texas A&M, we got a lot of great athletes, and you got your top-tier athletes at whatever sport that performed well here and got the job done here, to give them that chance to be pro athletes. Well, now we got 53 of those guys,
yes.
And so they're all passionate about what they do. They understand that our part in the weight room helps them do that out there on the field. And, so your athletes that succeeded here in college understood that, and that was part of their regime. Right. And it's no different up there. It's just now you got 53 of those athletes that are doing that.
How willing are they to take feedback?
Very willing. I think very willing. And I think part of that, we try to be a positive resource for them and let them know that we want to help you be good at what you do. Knowing that a lot of those guys have a lot of experience. We've got a relatively young team, but we've got athletes that have been in the league and have a lot of experience. And we like to learn too. So we pick their brain. We say, tell us what makes you special. How do you get ready? And then we get their input, because they're pros. They've had a lot of experience in our realm, strength condition. They've been with a lot of strength coaches and had a lot of successes, probably a lot of failures, and that's how we all grow. And so we want to hear their story too. And we think that's important because they know what they need to do to feel right and ready.
Right.
And then we try to bring our expertise and say, hey, I like that. Have you considered this? And be a resource for them. And I think that's important. I think as a coach in anything that you're doing, you got to be authentic and say, you know what, I want to help you be better. Right. And just be authentic with it and say, hey, I'm here for you. What can I do to help you?
Right.
And man, they've been receptive. So it's exciting. It's just a good place and a good team, and a lot of good folks.
How do you know how far to push some of these athletes? Because it must be in the back of your mind at some point that these are multi-million-dollar assets to the not to the university, but to the professional team. And certainly injuries or a variety of other things can actually prevent them from playing with the impact on the wins and losses. Does that ever come into your mind? How do you know how far to push them?
Yeah, that's there, and it's the same though here with your college athletes. And sports science has grown so much too. We've got so many modern systems, the tracking systems, elite form that we had there. We also have in Cleveland where we can measure the velocity and power output as the guys are lifting the weights, the GPS units where we can track velocity and movements and change the direction when they're actually on the field. And so now we've got to measure. And as a coach, I think the art of coaching, you inherently got an idea of, hey, he's close to his limit. And in the strength conditioning world, we know that, hey, we've got to train up to a limit so that we get that adaptation. But we also understand recovery is a big part of that as well. Right. So let's train to a certain point, knowing that we don't have to train over that point to actually receive benefit. Let's let recovery build those muscles back up, bones, tissue, everything else, so they're ready for the next one. So it's always in the back of your mind. And especially at this level, you're always trying to make sure that they're available. I've heard it said,
ready to go. Yeah.
Ready to go. And of course, you want them to be available at their peak.
Yeah.
And it's such a long season, it's such a demanding sport that you got to keep in balance and keep in mind of the rigors on that body too. And in some ways, adjust your training to make sure that they're always available. I heard one of the coolest phrases I've heard since I've been up there about ability in the NFL. The best ability is availability, and so they said that. So you want to make sure your athletes are strong, healthy, and available, and you build your program to that. What's going to make them available? Right. Or if they're strong and powerful, they're available to play. If they move well, they're healthy and available to play. And so I think we kind of take our program with that in mind. We did the same with our college athletes here. You got to push them, you got to help them grow, you got to help them develop, but you got to make sure they're available.
Right.
So you want your program and your principles, training principles to be sound, so that it's providing them a good platform for development so they can go out and do what they do.
So we won't get a lot into the nuts and bolts, but it is interesting to hear you talk about having your athletes available. Do you change your philosophy with your training programs through the year? So like, for example, I know in collegiate athletes in particular, during the year it's kind of maintenance. During their competitive season, it's maintenance, and then in the off season is when you really work on building strength and endurance, because during the season they've got the demands of not only competition but resting, recovery, and so forth. Do you take a similar philosophy with professional athletes, or is it we're trying to increase strength all the time?
No, you take a similar philosophy because you have to. There's times of the year where the demands on their body from practice and games and everything else are so extreme that you got to consider that as a exercise stimulus. So you know that they're getting some stimulus that way, and so you've got to take that into account when you're designing your training program. Yeah. So there is a time of year where you need to make sure they're maintaining strength to keep them on the field, but at the same time, you've got to develop strength as well. That's one of the things that's going to keep them strong, healthy, and able to do what they do. So there is a phase of your year where you are developing strength, you're developing power output. The NFL is interesting. It's a very long season. And you see that with a lot of our collegiate athletes, whereas when they first get there, once you've played 4 preseason games and 8 regular season games, you've actually played a college season.
Yeah.
And that's called the middle of October in the NFL with 8 games to go. Yeah. And so you see that's a new training stimulus on those young bodies that they're experiencing for the first time. So as a strength coach and coaches, we need to be aware of that, saying, this is a new stimulus. How do we help them with that? Do we continue to develop some strength, some power, endurance? Where do we put that into the program? We got to weigh how much effort they're putting out on the field. Are they getting a lot of reps? Are they not getting enough reps where we can push them more in the weight room? Or did they have a heavy practice day where they ran a lot and I know they're fatigued, so this needs to be a maintenance type program for them? You've got to weigh all those things all the time, and in which we do. And that's one of the exciting things up there. Of course, I'm up there with some familiar faces to A&M with Larry Jackson and Dale Jones. And so, we've got our Aggies up there working together, and we really did a lot of those things when we were here. And I think that's what is helping us with that transition to the NFL too, knowing that there's a lot of demands on these athletes as they're going through their sport. What's the best way we can deliver a good training program for them? So you take all those thoughts and philosophies and principles into consideration when you're training them, getting them ready to go.
So these are professional athletes. Do y'all still work with them in the summer during the off season, or do they have their own coaches that you interact with, or are they still around?
Yes to all of that.
Yes to all of that.
Yes to all that. Depends on the situation, the player, and their living situation. If they've got homes there and they're training right there, some of them go back to their home state or their homestead, and they obviously have people they've trained with there before, and that they're comfortable with and have good knowledge base with. And that's part of their program to get themselves ready. And we do have contact. We reach out not only to the athletes, which we do on a regular basis. Hey, we're a resource. What can we do to help you? You're doing your thing and you're getting yourself ready to go. We want to help you do the best that you can. What can we do to help? So we reach out to them, but it's also, we'll make contact with some of those coaches. A lot of them go back to their college coaches, and we have a pretty good working relationship with a lot of those guys. So it's a great chance to reach out and network and just talk shop with a lot of those coaches. But again, the bottom line, to kind of help our athletes and do the best for them. Right. And then we've got some of those guys that are right there in the training room. It's summer break right now. For a lot of our guys, the athletes and the coaches, which gives me a chance to be here. But we've got
talking to us,
right? But we've got coaches that are up there, and it won't be long before I'm back up there and I'm running the weight room while the rest of our staff is finishing their summer vacation. So again, we make ourselves available for our athletes that are there and getting ready for the season. So
it's one of the things we talk to our guests about quite a bit is how they got to where they are. If somebody's watching this and says, I want to be Monty Gibson, it's been quite an interesting pathway, hasn't it?
It's been a journey, absolutely. And I wouldn't change it. It's been a great journey. Yeah,
if you could give just a synopsis of how you got to where you are, I think that'd be fascinating for the audience.
Sure. Well, I started as a middle school coach, 7th grade, athletics, football, basketball, track.
Gotta love the 7th graders.
Absolutely. That's where I started. So I started there in junior high, and after a couple of years, got up to high school level. I had 1 year of swimming experience in high school, which qualified me to be the head coach there at the high school, because I was the only one on staff that had any kind of experience. So I was the head swim coach there, as I also coached a position on varsity football and helped with the powerlifting team, but got my start in the junior high and high schools. And at the time, my wife and I had finished our undergrad there at Angelo State, and we were looking to do graduate school here at A&M. I'd gotten into the environmental engineering department because I wanted to be a fish and wildlife specialist.
Interesting.
Right. It got into engineering, and our plan in our mind at the time, we were thinking, well, she can teach, and I'll just go to graduate school full time, and we'll get this thing knocked out. And we both came down and interviewed and for teaching jobs here, and their honest answer was, hey, we love your resume and we see what you've done, but you did your student teaching there in San Angelo, Texas. We've got about 1 million Aggies that did their student teaching right here in Bryant College Station. And honestly, it's who so they're familiar faces in the schools, and they told us that. Now, if you've got some experience, you'll have a chance to get in a teacher. So we were thinking that's the way we were going to get it at the time. Now, looking back with hindsight, we could have done anything, any job here and got through graduate school, but that's where our mind was been at that time.
That's what you knew.
What we knew. Yeah. And so we've got our first teaching jobs out there in Fort Stockton, Texas. And after about my first 2 years doing that, I absolutely fell in love with coaching. Because I remember what coaches did for me and the impact that they made on my life, and I was having a blast. And that's about the time I started coming out here. Alan Kinley and Mike Clark used to host the NSCA State Strength and Conditioning Clinic out here in May.
Some of you may recognize the name Mike Clark, and Alan Kinley for that matter, because we had him on the podcast. But Mike Clark was trainer at Kansas City. Is that correct?
He's been several places in the league. He was here at A&M for 14 years with R.C. Slocum, then was with the Saddle Seahawks and Kansas City Chiefs, most recently Washington Redskins, and he's back in Texas now. So yes. Yeah,
so that was great workshops there.
Yeah, it was a great workshop, and that brought me out here about 3-4 years running. I would come out, talk to my AD. They were able to send me out. And it dawned on me that, you know what, collegiate strength and conditioning is a real job. And so I told my wife, I said, I think I want to do this. And so we made the move. I got into the graduate school out here in exercise phys, and did that, volunteered my way in the weight room while I was still teaching and coaching over in Bryan, and made it happen. So, my 38 hours that for, some graduate students should take a year and a half, maybe 2, took me 3.5 years, so it took a while, but we made it happen. Our family was young, and in fact, our oldest was 3.5 when we moved here, and the other 2 came along while we were here. And, so the family was growing, but we found a way and made a way, and still worked there in Bryan teaching and coaching, and then came out and volunteered in the weight room and did my graduate work, and the GA spot came open, and here we are,
But, you kind of brushed over something that I think is really important for people to understand. Now, in these kind of jobs, it often starts with a volunteer position.
Yes.
You put in a lot of hours as an unpaid staff member.
Yeah, the experience is invaluable, and you have to. I think in coaching, and especially in strength conditioning, but I think really in any coaching spot, to really gain that experience and gain some knowledge and background, you have to put the time in. You have to expose yourself to new ideas and thoughts and philosophies on how to do that, because then it gives you experience. Because one day when you've got that opportunity to lead a team or lead a group or build a training program, you've got experience to draw from, and it's just it's really necessary. You have to put that time in. The other cool part about that too is it gives you an opportunity to show what you can do. Show your work ethic, and that's huge. I think in any profession, in anything you do in life, you've got to have a sense of work ethic, but in coaching especially. That's how you get noticed. And the athletes are the same way. We tell our athletes that all the time. Put the work in. Well, as coaches, we ought to do the same. And it's huge. You have to do that. And especially in the strength conditioning world, you really do. There's a lot of volunteers hours. You got to go out and seek the knowledge. My wife, she still tells folks the joke. She feels like there's years where we planned our family vacations around what weight rooms I could go see. That was truly the opposite. We were going somewhere and said, "Oh, there's a weight room there.
Let's go see it."
So, but which was neat. I think unique for the family too. One, it was a chance for me to kind of network and learn from other folks. But my boys grew up around that too, and they got to see athletes working and see that work ethic and see coaches applying that and helping people and kind of the character that goes with the profession. And that's something that as parents we feel real proud of, that, our boys got to see that too and see that work ethic, demonstrated hopefully by us as parents, but by other folks too. And I think that was unique and valuable, so going out and volunteering and putting that time in is important. It was certainly important for me, but kind of as parents and at this standpoint, we're looking at it. It was a heck of an experience for the whole family as well. So.
Well, but you also point out a couple of important things, and that is that you have to develop a network, and you have to develop, we'll call it street cred.
You do
in this business. You're not going to walk in one day and say, "Hey, I want to be a strength and conditioning coach."
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No.
So what are the big trends you see coming? What's coming down the pike, you think, in strength and conditioning? I won't ask you exactly what you're doing with the Browns, but what are the trends you think that are happening now in strength and conditioning that people need to be aware of?
Sports science has been real big. The new measuring systems, the GPS units,
keeping up with everything.
They're keeping up with that. And I think that really got its start probably 10 years or so ago. It was big in Australia, some of the European countries, where they're tracking using those GPS units the velocity and speed and change of direction of the athletes. And most of that came from sports other than football.
Right.
And so I think now we're just now starting to truly understand that data. For a long time, I think we were comparing that data to soccer athletes and rugby athletes, which gives you a good idea about velocities. But there's so many different positions in a sport like football. Right. We're really now starting to see that data in a different light. So I think that's going to continue to grow, because you can look at that GPS data on an offensive lineman and compare that to a wide receiver, and you'd get two different ideas about what happened at practice.
That was the comparison I was just thinking about, actually.
It really is.
Yeah, because you'd say these people were at different practices.
Right.
In one sense, they are. But
yeah. And in a lot of ways, they are.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of coaches now, strength and conditioning coaches, sports scientists, are really starting to understand that data better, because I think first off, when you're looking at it compared to the soccer field, and I know there's different positions on soccer field and different amounts of running, but all the movements are very, very similar.
Sure.
And we almost expected the same kind of results when you're looking at football players. We're starting to discover that's not the case. No. They're exerting effort in many, many different ways.
Right.
And so now as we're starting to aggregate that data, not only with the teams we work with, but from other coaches we talk to, coaches starting to understand, wow, that we need to look at all this GPS data very specifically for each position, and it'll tell us more and more if we look at it specifically. And then we got to break that data down.
You got to figure out what it means. Sure.
We got to, because we're also discovering that too. Some of this data, you can collect data on everything.
Right.
Is it relative? Right. Does it really apply?
Right.
So I think it's growing, and that's going to continue to grow.
And that kind of stuff's also being collected in the weight room. You mentioned that a while ago with all the devices now in the weight room to measure velocity of lifts and all this. It's not like they lift and then say, yeah, coach, I did 6 reps. No, that's all tracked for.
Yeah, that's getting tracked nowadays. In fact, we had it here at A&M. We've got it there in Cleveland. The Elite Form systems, where it's our tracking system that'll video it, but also track the speed and velocity of that bar. And then once you put the load on there, we've got the load and the velocity, so you can get a power output out of that as well. And so you can measure that, and if he's training at optimal power output. And football truly is a power endurance sport.
Sure.
It's how powerful are you? Well, that's great if you're super powerful on the first play of the drive.
Right.
What about a 10-play drive?
Right.
When it's really important? You're at the goal line, it's time to get in, or it's time to stop them now.
Yeah.
Do you have power endurance? And so to be able to measure that pretty regular, we can say, is this guy sustaining that power?
Yeah.
And we can help him design his training program toward that. So now measuring that in the weight room really helps as well. So that's going to continue to grow. And I think another growing facet to the strength conditioning world, I think more and more strength conditioning coaches are realizing not only is this new technology helping us, but the old coaching eye was pretty valuable too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're also going to see a trend where we've relied some on this data, and we realize, this is the next biggest thing, and we've been excited about it. But I think now coaches are realizing this is helpful, but that coaching eye is super important as well. Understanding that movement, watching our athletes' body language, and when we see they're fatigued, and knowing that athlete, that's becoming in vogue again as well. And I can say that I had some pretty good mentors, Mike Clark, Alan Kinley, some coaches that really kind of came up in the world of strength conditioning back in the day during its heyday, where that's how they truly made that development. It was the coaching eye and understanding their scientific principles about applying training. That's coming back, where you're really seeing, this science, we got excited about it, and the measurement, we realized that's just a tool, just like the barbell's a tool to help make them better.
Right.
So we got to keep the art of coaching in it as well.
So it seems like the art of coaching is primary, but the data stuff is secondary. It's a validation.
It's a validation.
A validation of the art, And you're right, it's been flipped kind of the other way around.
It has been. So, and I think when the technology first came out, we were all excited about it. Said, hey, this is going to be a new tool. Because as coaches, you're always looking for what's the next advantage? How can we help our team get better? And we realized, wow, this is exciting. We got pretty excited about it. But now I think in the strength conditioning world, coaches are realizing, you know what? The good sound scientific principles of be strong, be powerful, train well. That applies just as much, maybe if not more so.
So that almost sounds like the answer to my next question for you. As we start to wrap up here, what is the one thing you would want our audience to remember if they remember nothing else about this conversation?
In regards to strength conditioning?
Anything you like. What's your take-home message, Monty?
What's your take-home? Try to be the best that you can be. Be good at what you do. Gain as much knowledge as you can. Be consistent.
Be consistent.
Be consistent, and on so many levels, when I just simply think about training, if you're going to get better at anything you do, and in regards to strength condition, good basic principles applied consistently helps you get there. And, I've kind of learned that and had many great mentors show me that in the weight room. Now that I've had some life experience of training and everything else and raising my family, man, that applies to life as well.
Mm-hmm. And your mentors that you've been watching over too, because I'm sure you're mentoring people as well.
Absolutely, at least hope to be and try to be a good mentor.
Yeah, it's been great to have you today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being with us. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you that have been watching and been with us today. Regular listeners and watchers of our program will know that this is a time when we do a podcast question of the week. And from our producers today, our question of the week, our podcast question of the week is, according to Monty Gibson, what is the difference between a college and NFL strength and conditioning program? So be the first one to send us the answer to that question through our email at huffines@tamu.edu. You'll win one of our nifty podcast T-shirts. And so we're looking forward to that answer. Just send it to us at huffines@tamu.edu. And you'll be the first one. And we've been known to give out more than one T-shirt a week, so don't hesitate to send us that answer when you get it. So again, thanks, Monty, for being with us, for coming down from Cleveland.
You bet,
to be with us.
Appreciate it.
It took us a while, but we got you here.
We got it done. Absolutely.
Persistence, right?
Persistence, that's right.
And thank you all again for being with us, and we look forward to being with you again another week or so. Please join us again as we have another interesting person from the world of sports medicine and human performance. And until then, we hope that you stay active and healthy. He said when it was up there, it was ready to go, didn't he?
Yeah, it's on.
I guess that means that we're ready to go. Well, hello, and welcome to the podcast from the, excuse me, we'll scratch that and start all over again. And we're out.